Hey everybody.
Hey.
You may have noticed we are joined by a third person. Do you want to introduce yourself super quick?
Yeah, I'm Olie. I'm the marketing director here. I'm not around that often.
No.
But putting the strings from the background.
Sure. But you've been all over recently, and I want to ask you about that.
Yeah.
How's traveling been?
It's actually really easy.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I've been on 2 holidays and they've been the most amount of headache you could possibly ask for.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
PCR testing.
Oh yeah,
It's
there's
always
a lot of testing.
Yeah.
But dude, this is just the world we live in nowadays. Like you got to fill in a few extra forms, you got to take a few extra tests. But I mean, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. You know the really funny thing?
Go on.
You take all these tests and you fill in all these forms and you check in, and what they give you is this tiny piece of white paper with a tiny little signature on it,
Yeah.
and that is your proof that you've done all the things. And I'm just looking at it going, I could have made that in about a second.
Sure.
So it's all a bit baloney, but yeah, I found it very easy.
Cool. So you got Amsterdam, Lisbon, back to the UK.
And I went Lisbon, Edinburgh, Amsterdam, and now we're back here.
Cool. Favorite one?
Oh, Lisbon by far.
Really?
Yeah, it's gorgeous. I would happily live there.
Interesting.
Happily live there.
Where's your next
What do you
destination?
think?
I can vouch for that.
Well, Ash visited because we actually had a keynote speech in Lisbon.
I can't believe all of that happened in that period. Yeah,
I know,
that was what an experience. Yeah, I went out for a couple of days.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Beautiful
And
place.
Ollie took me to the Time Out Market. I'm not sure if I mentioned to you.
Briefly, yeah.
Yeah, took a photo of it.
Very
Amazing.
cool.
Very,
Yeah.
very cool. Very much your vibe, Sam. Just like
It was also heaving because it was the same week as Web Summit,
Right,
which is
okay.
the biggest thing. It's the biggest summit in Lisbon ever.
So Facebook announced it's now Meta.
Is that where they did it?
I think so.
No way.
Is that week or something?
I
Yeah,
didn't
they
know that.
Yeah. There was a lot of big announcements that week. I met some of the Web Summit people at the airport.
At the
It was
airport,
really
yeah.
cool. I felt like in
Dude,
like mini Silicon Valley there.
Any updates on that? Because they talked to you about a bit of software that I fucking want. You'll hate it because Mr. No, the tool, this productivity tool you're so against.
Which one?
To-do lists.
Oh yeah, no. What they said? What Notion?
No.
No, okay, so
Are you allowed to talk about this?
well, I'm not under an NDA. I was just a conversation. I can enjoy what I want.
Yeah, go on, man. Yeah.
And I remember, So I met this person at the airport who went to Web Summit, and they were saying that one of their good friends, who's a founder, multiple exits before, has set up a to-do is kind of app.
Yeah.
But it automatically allocates it within your calendar based on your preferences and the times you know that it knows you're roughly free and you prefer your things. And I think the reason this is great for you is because you're one of the first people that mentioned this to us, that don't just have a to-do list, put it in your calendar. And I didn't believe you at the time, but now.
But here's the price. So there's this great story about, and I'm probably derailing your whole agenda here, but I'm going to tell you the
That's
story.
fine, go for it. He has to edit it.
Feature-led marketing is complete farce, right? And there's this great story of British Airways who launched a massive campaign because they had the world's widest business class seating, right?
Yeah.
And they did this massive campaign, millions and millions and millions of pounds, the world's widest business class seating. Within 1 month of that campaign, Singapore Airlines had released a business class seat which was about an inch wide.
Right.
So if you're competing on features, you're always going to lose because it's so easy just to compete. I mean, look at Clubhouse. Everyone's done, on Facebook, like you can have a Clubhouse room now. On Slack, we can do a Slack huddle. That's Clubhouse.
Yeah.
Twitter's done it. Yeah.
So like feature-led SaaS, feature-led software.
Yeah.
Very, very difficult to win in that game.
Sorry, that seems to be a big thing that you've been pushing, because we just had a chat before this, and you said the exact same thing, that how to stop commoditizing yourself and falling into that trap.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, there's somebody at the patent office that hasn't quite filed the patent for that bit of software, and you just got their intern so fucking fired. Okay, cool. So the main thing that we do in these podcasts is I intentionally didn't do an intro. Hi there, welcome to Director's Debrief, episode 4.
Episode 4?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you don't have much to catch up on.
It's
episode 1, 2, and 3.
4.0, yeah.
4.0.
Yeah.
And what we normally do is get
Sounds big.
4.0. It's no bigger than 4.
That sounds like our first podcast.
What do you mean?
E-commerce 3.0.
3.0.
Yeah.
Still available on Spotify if people want to check that out.
And other streaming platforms.
Sure. But yeah, Ram normally prepares some questions for us, and we answer them.
Ram doesn't look that prepared.
No, but Ram, what I want you to do with your questions for this week is I want you to take them and I want you to shove them very safely in your notebook because they're really good questions. I just want you to hold them back for 1 week because get this, guys. We've had questions submitted by a viewer.
Really?
By a viewer. Yes, it's one of my closest friends, sure, but they viewed it. So technically...
Should have stopped there and just gone viewers.
Viewers, yeah. And they're really, really good questions. They're right on sort of brand
So
in terms of the things that we talk about.
What normally happens, Ram? You come up with the questions and then you give these guys some questions. What are they about? Like ethical questions, like business questions?
That end up being completely opposite.
Okay.
We try and stay focused.
Yeah.
I can't even remember any of the questions that we've had.
Well, there you go.
Well, last week Ram asked us about how we found our first employees, or how we, how we recruited our first employees. Great question.
Yeah.
I think we ended up talking about Bitcoin.
Yeah. Always.
So we try and stay focused.
Okay.
So these are just to prompt the conversation and just let it run, man. Just wherever your heart wants you to take it. That's why when you're like, oh, this might derail.
Yeah.
There ain't no rail.
Okay.
All right, we're in the ocean.
Don't tell Olie this. He's the king of that. If you give him the free roam.
That's the weirdest metaphor I've ever heard. We're on a
We're a train in the middle of the ocean. We can go wherever the fuck we want.
Submarine? Okay.
So, question number 1.
Yeah.
And I want to focus more on question 2, so try and breeze past this, guys. Try and stay focused. If you were to try out a new skill or hobby for a month with no limitations in terms of time off of work, money, finances, anything, what would that skill be?
That's a pretty good question.
They're very on the spot.
I'll let Olie ride with that one.
You know what? I think actually skiing.
Skiing?
Yeah.
Interesting. Have you skied before?
I skied once before, and I love everything. I love the idea of skiing so much.
Okay.
Like exercise, quite a lot of drinking in the evening.
Sure.
And the feeling that there's very, very few occasions. This is one of the things I loved about sport, especially team sport, is there's very, very few occasions in life where you feel like you really earned your drink. But I feel like when you've been skiing all day and you hit the après ski, you feel like you've really earned your drink and it's a bit of a party. And I really, if I went skiing with my friends, I'd be like the guy like straggling on like the beginner run. So skiing.
You think a month is long enough for that?
Oh, dude, a week.
A week?
Yeah.
Very confident. Love it.
Yeah, man. Easy.
What you got?
Well, I don't know, but just on that part,
Don't
we
say
were.
skiing.
No, I wasn't going to say skiing, but it's funny. Like when we think of skiing here in the UK, we're like, it's a whole holiday. It's a whole thing that you have to do. I was speaking with one of our clients in France, and they were just like, "Oh yeah, we're just going to hit the slopes this weekend,
There you go.
just for a thing." And it's just like that, casually. And they're like, "Oh, they're okay, they're a couple thousand meters high."
What do we have in the UK that's the equivalent of that?
The Cairngorms in the Highlands of Scotland.
You can ski there?
Yeah, that's the only
I
place
just
have
meant
skied.
because that's like a cool weekend activity that to us is a whole holiday ordeal. What's the British equivalent of that, where we can nip off for a weekend and do that, but others can't in their country? They'd come to the UK to do that.
Surfing. Actually,
Fair play,
maybe I'll do
surf
surfing instead of skiing.
Yeah.
I might change mine for surfing. I'm terrible at surfing.
But we don't. Okay, you see surfing, but it's not like when was the last time you heard someone surfing in the UK?
all the time.
Really?
Yeah, down in Brighton.
Okay, but
I've heard of it.
over a certain period of time, it's not just something that you can. It's not regular.
No.
Yeah, of course it is.
Is it?
If you if you live by the coast.
I feel like we're living in the UK, not California. It's gonna
It
go.
looks a bit different to what it might do out there. But what's your thing?
What's my thing? It kind of ties in together with like meditation and taking that time out. But you mentioned to me once of taking like a reading week.
This is off of a Bill Gates thing. This isn't my thing. I'm not taking credit for Bill Gates stuff.
I mean, just take credit, man.
Sure. Give me my money.
So Bill Gates, right? That's he used to just take these weeks off. I think when he was a bit more established, not in his early days.
No, still doesn't know that.
Yeah, and he just takes a week off and just goes to some
I think that's smart.
random
Little
forest.
hut
he is
in the
quite smart.
forest.
Yeah, he's pretty smart. We'll give him that. But it's just the fact, it just makes absolute sense. But I think you need that. We put our own kind of restrictions on ourselves, but you need that time and that ability to just go away.
You don't read enough.
Yeah.
You could read a lot more.
Yeah.
I know you could.
How do you know that?
Yeah,
You watch me.
Because I know. Because
just got back into the country.
We've talked about it before.
I do. To be fair, it's not the same thing, but I've become huge on Audible.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
because it's. I completely agree. I read a lot of articles, a lot of like things like that. But when it comes to actually sitting down with a book, just I can say blame time. I can blame everything because I do enjoy it. So Audible is a great one because when I'm driving anywhere now,
that's great. Yeah,
a bit of music, but other than that, it's just Audible and just rolling through new stuff. But thanks for putting me on the spot like that. That's quite.
They called you out like for so unnecessary.
What about you?
It would have to be motorsport related. So I'd maybe take up cars. Actually, if money isn't a thing,
I'd spend more time getting better at driving.
What do you mean?
Isn't that what you do? Isn't that what you do in your spare time?
Sure, but I'd like to do it like in non-simulation, in reality, IRL.
This is all a simulation, by the way.
Huh?
This is this whole thing.
Fine, but a simulation.
All right, no, let's not get into that.
Because that's a simulation within a simulation. I'd like a top tier simulation, please.
Okay, fine.
Which would cost me a lot of money that I don't think that I don't have.
Okay.
But if money and time isn't a factor, I'd probably spend a month going around the world racing on different tracks.
That would be amazing.
Just be insane.
Oh my god.
But the main question was question number 2, which is generally more focused about what we talk about on this podcast, which is some of the behind the scenes of us as human beings in the positions that we're in. And the first one is, my friend has said to me, I find it really hard to switch off after work, but also when I take time off, I feel a little bit guilty. Have you ever had this feeling of guilt and difficulty switching off? If so, how do you deal with it?
Yeah, all the time.
And this is slightly different though, because I know that this individual works for a company, isn't no skin in the game, and so I think that's where there's a bit of a difference where I don't think in that sort of position you should feel guilt for taking time off.
Depends on the company culture.
Right.
What about you, Ash? You've been through times when you found it hard to switch off. I know. I've definitely been through the same.
I've been, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to think I've stopped feeling guilt for not working when I feel I should be working or any of that.
Sure.
And I think a huge part is because if I'm feeling guilt when I'm not working, when I feel like I should be dedicating my time and I'm doing something else, then I'll feel it the other way around as well when I'm working and I'm neglecting something else. And it's a continuous cycle and balance because you're trying to find equilibrium. You're trying to find that perfect spot where you're like, all right, I'm working too much. I'm not spending enough time with my family and friends.
Right.
Or, in the hobbies or things that I enjoy. Yeah. And when I'm spending too much time with hobbies or with my family, friends, I'm like, all right, I've neglected my work. And it was just a constant fight. And maybe there was one day in a year where I was in healthy equilibrium where I literally spent X amount of hours there and X amount of hours there.
No, I was just going to say, what did it take you to get to the other side? What did it take you to get from feeling guilty for both, which sounds very unhealthy, to a point where you don't feel guilty for either?
I think I've just learned to accept it because I was on this constant, I go through it a lot, and I'm not saying I'm completely satisfied that, I don't feel guilt, but it's with everything, if we've let a client down, I felt guilty. If we not done something to the perfect ability, I felt guilty, and that guilt isn't great. It's just like worrying, right? It is worrying because worrying is a waste of time and energy. So rather than that, just accept what it is and find that harmony naturally, find that equilibrium naturally, but be aware still, of what's going on. How about yourself?
Yeah, there you go.
I think guilty is an interesting word because I think you can't be guilty unless you're holding yourself up against some personal expectation.
Right.
And if you think about expectation is the root of all unhappiness, without a doubt.
That has been proven to be true, yes.
Yeah, you remove expectation and you're basically bound to have a happy life, right? But the way I look at it personally is it's because it's not that simple just to say, remove all expectation, you're done.
Sure.
Look at it macro and micro. So micro level, it comes down to performance. And I say to my clients a lot, it's like, if I actually perform better the more golf I play. So the more I'm switched off, the more I'm on the golf course, the more I'm sort of meditating, the better I am when I turn up, right? So that's the micro. The macro is none of this actually matters. None of it matters. Really. Outside, obviously it's all good that we help customers and that we deliver good business and all that good stuff. But honestly, if you speak to 70-year-olds and 80-year-olds and 90-year-olds,
right,
they are not talking to you about how they were hustling when they were 30.
Sure.
So that's another perspective you have to think. It's like, dude, it really doesn't matter. Like, do your best, do what you can. And on the micro level, make sure that you realise that you won't be able to perform unless you are giving yourself that time off as well.
Just going into that and delving into that bit. So I love that, firstly. Really nice way to look at it and going on the macro scale. So on your micro scale makes perfect sense. It's not easier said than done, but try to reduce that expectation that you're setting on yourself in different things. And naturally you just feel a bit happier with things and you just let things go.
Yeah.
And really what you were worrying about or expecting wasn't that bad. On the macro scale, I agree with you. And I thought you were going to go into the whole simulation thing of like, we're in a simulation, it doesn't matter. Not determinism. But you're right? Like, it's not life or death that we're dealing with here. You know, it can be very different in other careers, but when it comes to what we do, it's very important, I hope, and we believe that. We're really changing stuff here. But, you know, that people will be able to sleep tonight if we were here or we weren't.
Yeah.
On the same token, it goes back to your thing that you raised in question 1 of earning that drink.
Yeah.
And that feeling of earning a drink. So if you were to take an 80, 90-year-old and you want a nice lifestyle when you're there, you're retired, you're well off.
Great point, yeah.
You may not talk about the skiing that you've done within the day. You may not talk about, those slopes, those nursery slopes were really hard or whatever I was doing. But that feeling and that appreciation for putting in that grind when you were able to really appreciate your good, chilled out, relaxed time when you're older, that's important. So I just wanted to make that clear for those that are like, all right, I'm not going to do anything now, I'm just going to chill at home.
Of course. No,
because that appreciation for that drink or that when you're at that age, I'm sure, I don't know yet, but I'm sure it tastes sweeter than anything.
No, you're right.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
But how about yourself, Sam?
I wanted to further, let's just all bandwagon to Ollie's point, but I wanted to add something that I heard on the Stephen Bartlett podcast with Mo Gaudat. Have you heard this?
No.
I'm going to butcher it, so make sure to look up the proper one, but it's about what you said about expectation, and he uses the example of the rain. If you're trying to grow crops, you'll be singing when the rain comes, but if you want to sunbathe, you're going to be really pissed off.
Yeah.
The thing is, the fact that the rain hasn't changed, it's what your expectation was versus the reality.
Yeah.
And if there's a disconnect there, that's the root of unhappiness, the disconnect. And so, I guess removing all expectation might be a bit difficult, but aligning it with what you can achieve, like if it's raining, don't sunbathe, plant some crops.
Yeah.
And things like that can lead you down a route of slightly better happiness. I don't know, because I think in terms of how I feel about this, I think I've gotten good at not feeling the guilt during my time off. Mm-hmm. I haven't gotten good at stopping in my time off. And I'll use this example. In my last holiday, I decided to delete Superhuman, which is an email app, and Slack from my phone.
Nice.
When you delete them, obviously the iPhone rearranges where they are and what like the icons are.
Yeah.
And so the icon for the email app suddenly was the time app.
Right.
And so all throughout the day, I kept unlocking my phone and opening the time app. And I had no idea why I was doing that until I realized I subconsciously was trying to check my fucking emails.
It's addiction, though.
And like you mentioned before that we started rolling was you have an addictive personality. I've been denying it for years, but I 100% have an addictive personality.
Yeah.
And it kind of comes from a good place of the second you find something that's a little bit rewarding, I'll pursue the hell out of it. And I do find my work very rewarding.
Yeah.
And so that's where I struggle to take time off. Mm-hmm. I have the option to, I struggle to do it because of that, but I don't necessarily feel guilty about it anymore. I want to ask you a bit about company culture, because you mentioned about it depending on, and I want to go back to this person's question.
Yeah.
Working within a company where you don't necessarily have skin in the game, but you're a very pivotal part of the team, because I know that it's a startup.
Yeah.
What did you mean by depends on the company culture?
What was the original question? Feeling guilty about taking time off?
Yeah, or struggling to switch off, because I guess there's so much to do.
So that's leadership, man.
Yeah.
That's leadership. Like, how good is your leader at telling you, like, highlighting the priorities of life?
Sure.
Because a lot of leaders are looking at it and looking at their team and thinking, how do I squeeze the best productivity out of this resource? Well, that's terrible leadership. Good leadership is saying, look, this is life, right? And this is what we're doing in this job. If you've got a good vision, you've got some good values, that's what we're doing this for. But don't do that at the expense of family or relationships or anything like that, or health. So it comes down to leadership. And a good leader should never have their team sitting at home thinking, oh my God, I feel so guilty because I'm taking this day off.
Sure.
That's where it comes down to.
Who bears the burden, though? Is that an expectation of somebody in a leadership position?
Always the leader.
Right.
Always the leader.
I've thought this, but I've been careful about vocalizing this.
Always.
But yeah, where do you stand on that?
Sorry, give me a moment to digest.
Sure.
Yeah.
I could reinforce that. If anything goes wrong in a company, it's the top leader's problem.
Leader.
The top leader, yeah. Whatever happens. I mean, look at what happened with Oxfam, like not so long ago. That there was some terrible stuff happening in, I don't know where it was, Haiti or something like that. The chief executive of Oxfam, who probably had absolutely no idea or no clue, had to go because of it. If it goes wrong, it's the top leader's fault. If everything goes right, you better believe it's the person or the employee who did it who gets the credit, or the team that did it that gets the credit, right? So that's just the way the business works. And if there's a negativity going around, it's up to the leadership to sort it out.
I almost agree with you. I think I'm about to make a statement that I think might go against something you just said, but people in senior management positions get 100% of the credit for like 5% of what they did.
Yeah.
Or like what the majority of the team do, but they also take 100% of the blame when it's only 5% their fault.
Yeah, they
essentially
should.
That disparity.
They should. And they get the reward for it as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I think in leadership, you have to think beyond wanting that reward. And you should.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's not... It maybe some people, if you're in leadership, if you're in a leadership role, that shouldn't be your what gives you that thrill.
Mm-hmm.
So you should want to give the employee 100 or as much of that credit as possible, even if it's given to you from the client or anything, because you're the face of what the project was or anything like that. You need to make sure that employee or the person who put that graft in is heard. But on the same token, you're absolutely right that when you're in that leadership role, you need to be that body on the line. You're protecting.
Yeah. Simon Sinek, I mean, he's just listen to him.
Yeah.
He's got leadership down. But also like leadership as well is a case of like people realizing they're part of the team and creating an environment where every team member would put their body on the line for everyone else, right? He spent loads of time with Marines and stuff like that and saw it there. But yeah, this is the leader.
Awesome. I was going to ask you about this. Oh, yeah. There's a payments company. He's been called like CEO Jesus. And I wanted to pick your brain about him. CEO Jesus. I forgot.
He's a what?
Gravity Payments, I think he's called. CEO of Gravity Payments. Dan Price. You heard of him? He's the guy who raised the minimum wage in his entire company to $70,000 a year.
Yeah.
One of the most preachy people you could ever find on LinkedIn.
Okay.
But my entire network adores this person. But if you haven't heard of him, it kind of tanks where this conversation is.
No, I'd heard the guy.
Yeah.
And that's his salary as well, right? 70k.
Yes.
Yeah.
He got sued by his brother because apparently he was taking too much, but then he said it was investors that told him to take that much of a salary. But yeah, okay.
Is that just 70,000 for the cleaner to the everyone's on the equals on equals?
I would imagine they use like serviced offices where the cleaner is employed by a separate company. But this did cause uproar because I think some of like the legal team was like, why did we pay all that money to go to law school when this admin assistant is getting the same salary without a degree?
So it's like Marxism within a company.
Essentially, yes. I think that he's been labelled a communist, a Marxist. He's been labelled a works.
Is that smart?
He seems to think so. I don't think it is. For the sake of it costs different people different amounts of money to get. If we're just talking money, it costs people different amounts of money to earn different accreditations, to be at a different level, to earn different amounts.
Yeah.
But just so I don't seem cruel, what I will say is, my point on this isn't pure capitalism. It's the cleaners should still have a healthy enough income that they live a normal life. They should be able to take the kids on holiday. They should be able to enjoy a relatively normal life. And if that is the case, if that level is met, then I think people will stop caring if the CEO makes 20 times their salary, so long as somebody's getting paid enough to live a normal life.
I think that I agree with your second point there. the thing that his system, and probably get some backlash or whatever from people, his system doesn't take into account human nature and human incentive.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's been a conversation that's been going on for the last 100 years when it comes to socialism and communism. Ever since it became a thing, because just like you say the cost of educating yourself to go to law school, but that's the monetary cost, right? But what about the time, effort exerted?
100%.
Like that is the real cost there. Like what keeps that person up at night? And you don't want to keep them up at night, going back to our earlier point, but what keeps them up saying, I need to sort this out, this is my job, I need to fix up, or I need to improve myself. On that part. On the same token, you talk about the cleaner and you talk about making sure that everyone is having a happy, good life where they can afford things. That's absolutely true. And yes, we need to improve that, but I think that's a wider issue of the bigger system of how they can't afford, based on the average salaries and everything there, that there is becoming a big division between those of a high income and those who are on a base salary, and that's a system.
Can I just ask, is he saying everyone's salary is 70 grand, or that's just the minimum?
That's their minimum wage.
So there could be other people on 100 grand, 150 grand, 200 grand.
Potentially. I think there was a reset, and don't quote me on this. But the way he's described it right here is our company pays a minimum of 70k.
Yeah, because so surely then you can get a raise, because otherwise...
Yes, you don't stay on 70k.
Yeah, okay.
And there's a lot of benefits to this, and he talks about them, and these things I think are great, in that more of his staff have become homeowners than any other employer, and all of these great perks. One thing, and maybe I'll read out one of these things, and it's... and you can tell me what you think of this, right? He goes, our company pays a minimum wage of 70k and is paid parental leave, full healthcare benefits, paid time off, and allows everyone to work remotely. Great work, dude. Love that you're doing that. Then he goes, we received 25,000 applications for 72 jobs this year. There's no labor shortage. There's just a shortage of jobs that treat their people with respect.
Okay.
Release the ash.
Yeah, here's the thing. In concept, great idea, love it. From the face, seeing it on LinkedIn, love it, liked it, all of that. When you actually take a deep dive into it, and you take a deep dive into that, and you're saying, right, and let's take the cleaner or the
don't be suspicious, don't be
janitor or whatever, right? The caretaker. When you're paying them 70,000 plus all of those incentives that you've got, and you've got all of these applicants coming in, you're picking you can pick the very best, right? You can pick the best cleaner you can possibly find.
Sure.
So in essence, what you're doing is you're finding 70k worth caretaker. Someone who literally will lick...
Okay. Sorry, go ahead. 70k worth of cleaner.
Yeah, so by having that picking from those applicants, what did you say, 25,000 applicants?
Yeah, 25,000.
72 job offerings and job postings that pay that salary at a minimum. You are automatically picking and choosing a cleaner of that category, or a caretaker of that category, or anyone of that category.
Sure.
And this could be the best cleaner in the whole world. Yeah. They literally, with a toothbrush, make sure that every tile is spotless.
Sure.
Yeah.
So in essence, what you're doing is you're not just paying, your normal cleaner 70,000 in the real world. You've specified and you've picked the very best there. And any company could pretty much do that if you wanted to have a cleaner at that salary.
Yeah, I also think that what he's saying is completely skewed, because first of all, there is the great resignation. So loads and loads of people are resigning right now, and there is a shortage of talent. Second thing is, he's got all those applicants because he's made a massive PR push about having a 70 grand minimum wage. Therefore, more people know about the company.
Yeah.
That's what we're seeing there, is just a big PR push. So, I mean, I think he's skewed the stats a little bit. But, honestly, I like the innovation. I think
I like everything he's doing, man.
I don't know why you hate him so much. I'm joking.
I love what he's doing for his people. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a wonderful thing. I just think that he skews everything. It's not just one post.
Yeah.
He skews absolutely everything. Like, one of the things was just a blatant brag of we told our staff you can work from home or you can come into the office. And he goes, leadership ain't that hard. Just give the people what they want. I was like, cool, let's tell all the doctors and nurses that they can work remotely. He doesn't factor in everything. He's just preaching to everybody that this one size fits all is perfect. It's flawless. Look at me, I'm CEO Jesus. Give everybody 70 grand, do it how I'm doing it, and you'll be right.
He's brilliant.
And and the fact that, again, it's very like Donald Trump-esque. I'm not calling him Donald Trump, but it's just speak in a way that gets people either angry or like just talking about you.
That's good. That's good personal branding, dude.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to say. He's brilliant at personal branding.
Yeah.
That's good personal
And like,
branding.
my connections lap it up. And they're like I see his post on a daily basis, despite not following him, not being connected to him, because everybody is liking everything he says. And immediately, as soon as I see a post, I'm like, do you know how many industries that wouldn't fucking work in? Like, just immediately, I'm trying to pick at his flaws.
Yeah.
But again, it's this like holier than thou preachy shit that I'm not about.
Yeah.
And again,
that's a big conversation right now in corporate culture, like work from home, work from not. Some people try 4-day weeks, then they think actually it's worse because you're working hard on those 4 days. Like, people are working this stuff out right now.
Yeah.
That's the thing, though. People are working out and taking the time, because it's not just a simple yes or no. Just give them what they want.
Yeah.
Whereas our friend CEO Jesus is making it like black
What's
and white.
his actual name?
Dan Price.
Oh, Dan Price.
Dan Price from Gravity Payments.
Is it a British company, rather?
No, American. He's from Michigan. I didn't like fucking research this at night. It just came up when I searched for him. But yeah, I can happily agree that all of the things that he's doing, I think, are really, really good things. I just don't like the preachy shit, which is like a lot of LinkedIn, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, welcome to LinkedIn, my friend.
Yeah, I know. When we met, I was so anti-LinkedIn. And now I realize the benefits as well as its my gripes with it, shall we say.
It's funny, when I was posting a lot on LinkedIn, and I'll be getting back into that, I was also in parallel on Twitter, which is like finance Twitter and business Twitter, which is where everyone on that platform rips into LinkedIn influencers, even though they all are. And I was doing exactly that stuff on LinkedIn of that nature, and then liking these things on Twitter. It's just, parallel.
The LinkedIn influencer stuff is funny though. That's probably for another episode. But
we could spend a whole half an hour talking about that.
This stuff is good.
Okay, we're up to about half an hour.
Nice.
Is there any topics that you boys want to discuss? Anything you want to get off your chest? You only have about 5 minutes before I'll have to.
What's really annoyed you recently, or really?
Yeah, what's pissed you off?
There's always something.
What's
right?
grinding
There is
your
usually
gears?
something that's really pissed me off recently. Isn't
That
it?
old man. Like,
No, there's a few things that have really pissed me off. I think something that really pisses me off is people that think that that life is really hard for them and not for anyone else. I think that's something that really, really pisses me off. Wow. Do you get people like that?
All the time. That was very specific.
Constantly
up there.
Constantly victimize themselves and think that everyone else has been dealt a really good hand and that you've not. I don't know. Is that just me?
yeah. No, I get it. I can just see how people easily fall into that.
Yeah.
Because it's not necessarily just their personality, although some people could be veered towards that.
Yeah.
It's more that it's just negativity that makes them continuously.
And I feel like it's a negative cycle, because if you have that view that life is hard, stuff's happening to me, you start looking out for more stuff that's happening to you. Basically, what I'm saying is gratitude is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, well,
and it sounds very buzzwordy, but honestly, it's a very, very important thing.
Definitely agree with you there. But what I'm more curious about, because I didn't realize this, but the world is divided into two. It's divided into many other parts, but there are I didn't realize this, but there are people who believe in, I started identifying people in my own friendship groups like this, that believe that things are within their own realm of control, and there are people that believe that they're completely out of their realm. Like you say, being dealt the cards, like who said we're playing cards? I didn't agree to this.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I realized that you can lose a lot of people by saying you can make yourself happy. Like a lot of people will get pissed off at you because they believe that that's a situation that they're in, and I always have to put the disclaimer of I'm not talking about mental health issues. Those things you need professional help to get out of.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I didn't realize this, and I realized I'm in a room full of people that would potentially agree with me, having known you guys, that you can pull yourself out of shit. But I didn't know that people are so wholeheartedly behind the fact that no, like I think it's called neuroplasticity, that it's not a thing. You are hardwired, like you stop developing at age maybe 12, 13, and people will believe that you're stuck that way forever. Any trauma pre that, anything that may have happened is fixated with you indefinitely. Or like your personality because of those different things. And I've never believed that. But now I've started to realize, like I see it in certain people because of their approach of like being dealt cards rather than choosing not to play the game.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, I don't believe that at all.
You know, on your bit of gratitude, because I hear this a lot, we see it everywhere. What's your opinion of that? Like you just said, I think it's gratitude. Like
Okay, so it's really this simple. If you are able to be in any moment grateful, you're very unlikely to be unhappy at the same time. Very, very hard to be unhappy, sad about something, and grateful at the same time. It's very hard to hold those two emotions in your mind at the same time.
Sure. So if you were to get, sorry, I'm just trying to get my. I do know where you're coming from, because I'm sure we all practice that.
Okay, so like you get into a car crash and you break your leg and they have to amputate your leg, right? Gratitude says, "Wow, I can't believe I survived."
Mm-hmm.
Non-gratitude says, "I'm so unlucky that I've lost my leg." You can't hold those two emotions or those two thoughts in, and I'm touching loads of fucking wood right now because we're all about to drive home. But do you see what I mean? You can't hold those two thoughts in your mind at the same time.
Yeah.
And that sounds like a big topic, but trust me, we have micro moments like that every day where we can decide to say, "God, that's a bitch," or "God, we're lucky it didn't happen that way." It happens all the time. Probably about 100 times a day you can make that decision. And the people that practice gratitude and are good at looking at the good side, we lost a customer today. Oh my God, life's over. We lost a customer today. Amazing. We can go and find a better one.
Yeah.
Right? Those people win all the time.
I love that.
On a smaller scale, I also want to recite something I heard, which is you can change everything by changing how you approach what you have to do. Just by saying things like have, like, "Oh, I have to do this," rather than saying "I get to do this" rather than "I have to do this." It just like automatically embeds a little bit of gratitude. Sure. Like, "Oh, I have to call this person for the 5th." No, I get to call that person. I could be in a much worse scenario where I don't have to call that person.
I'm not saying we've all got this on lock. What you both have just
not
described.
even fucking close, mate.
But do you definitely think the idea that we're all entrepreneurs here, in our own ways, like, and we're all in business, like we're forced to have a certain amount of gratitude from a business side, certainly.
Yeah. Because
otherwise it'd all fall apart.
You have to.
Optimism. Yeah.
Not just for you, but like, again, we're talking about leadership bearing the responsibility. We have the responsibility of our workers' well-beings, the people who work for us, like their well-beings, like pretty much most of what you do in leadership is motivating your team. Like I would say that's 80% of the job role is maintaining good morale and motivation. And so expressing that you're grateful in your position sets a great example that like there is gratitude to be found everywhere. And in a weird way, being in leadership, I think that's because you put on that facade, you start to believe it yourself. Because there's this thing about, I read recently, confidence. It's very hard to distinguish the difference between real confidence and fake confidence. If somebody's faking it versus somebody being real, it's really hard to distinguish the difference, specifically with confidence.
Interesting.
And so a great way to gain more confidence is to fake that your confidence for long enough whilst you build up that in the back of your mind. I think it's the same thing with like gratitude. In our positions, to motivate and boost morale, we express this gratitude. And I'm not saying it's insincere, but maybe it grows in sincerity over time.
Definitely.
And now we've just reached a point where it's like, yeah, it's awesome that we get to do all of these things. And hopefully we instill that in the people that we work with.
100%.
Brilliant. That is actually probably the way we need to finish this episode. Because that was,
you guys happy with that?
Wrap it up, man.
Yeah,
all right.
That was great. So.
You usually do the end, so...
Yeah, all right. So on our Directors Debrief podcast, make sure you subscribe on whatever podcast channel you're listening to. What are we on? I said Shopify. We will be on Shopify one day. No, Spotify, Apple, Google, YouTube, wherever you are. If you subscribe, like, even if you're on Instagram, that'll be great. Cheers. Thanks, guys.